Good morning, folks. The sun is still quiet, plasma filaments still dancing, the weather is still extreme, Adam is still biding his time in the womb, and yet the news we hit today is still top-notch. Let's begin, as always, over at spaceweathernews.com, and we find the last day on our star with coronal holes looking smaller and patchy. No sunspots either, so the southern coronal hole dominates our view. By the way, we're only 2 weeks from Earth's southernmost heliographic longitude in our orbit. Many call that earthquake season. Eyes open ahead towards early March. The solar wind remains calm. Patchy coronal holes have produced no density shocks or intensified streams, as in purple. You see all telemetry is under 400 kilometers per second. Weak stream and no shock geomagnetic conditions are quiet too. Top quake of the last day struck Iran. It shook Oman, UAE, and even a bit of Saudi territory. The final magnitude reading at 5.5 puts it at equal power to the Blood Echo in New Zealand, but edges ahead of it in immediate relevance to humans given that it struck the low velocity zone, again as a Blood Echo, very deep. We've got two critical and not so quick to describe top stories today, but let's ease into them with an SC galaxy, NGC 2008 from Hubble. Not all spiral galaxies are created equal. This one has more open arms and a smaller central bulge. We have seen tightly wrapped spirals coil a dozen times around within a galaxy. This would be the opposite, open and less tight. And now we're off to HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Gacona, Alaska. They have performed a new test, tripling their previous effects by using the electron gyroharmonics. And the critical thing to know here is that even still, what they were able to accomplish was virtually nothing. Very generous color scale for their form graph here. If this wasn't just a couple percentage points of change, and it was a highly dense structure, and it didn't die out the moment they turned it off, and if they could do it anywhere except right above their heads, it might be scary. But while previously, HAARP ran at about a 500 times deficit from being able to seriously affect the weather and the planet, yeah, they've now cut that down to about 490 times deficit. And here's a critical lesson for the community. HAARP was a top-secret classified thing. Talk you die sort of stuff. Then they realized they might be able to play with plasma a little bit, but they couldn't really do anything meaningful. Then, in the span of 90 days, we got books telling us HAARP is a killer weapon, a TV show on the History Channel saying the same thing, insiders from the classified project allegedly risking their lives to give talks about HAARP, and magically nothing happened to them. And finally, actor/politician Jesse Ventura told us to be afraid and handed the internet an enemy on a silver platter. You talking about the same thing that was a kill-level secret just weeks earlier? Okay. Folks, this is called a limited hangout. The end result was we took the bait, think the wrong things, and are taken further from the truth. And we sound like idiots to the rest of the world. When they tried to pull out all that scary stuff about HAARP and put it into this community in a flood of alleged disclosure, it was a weapon against you. They got us to use it on ourselves. HAARP is a joke. Their latest tests amplifying their effects are a joke too. Lightning does more to the ionosphere above it, and if you've ever heard of sprite lightning, millions, yes, millions of times more powerful than what they've done. Now, the top article to share is actually from last month. Quaternary only gets a check from me every couple weeks, so we are a bit late on this one, but indeed, we've got an examination of the recent magnetic excursions. As expected, the mainstream timelines are slightly askew from what you might hear from accounting for major isotope deposition by the sun, but they still identify Gothenburg about 13,000 years ago, Lake Mungo around 26,000 years ago, although they do use other names, and they have Mono Lake at 39,000 years ago, a perfect 13,000-year pattern, 13,000 years since the last one, and Earth's magnetic field changing like it hasn't changed in thousands of years. But the slight differences in dating and time sort of are negligible when we're talking about this scale. This paper is actually free to read, and you can see how many different isotopes they were using in different areas, and how some of them we know are not as reliable as things like krypton dating, so perhaps we can forgive these slight differences in timing. But all in all, the same story comes round again. And look at the lead author on the paper. That's James Channel. Published works all list him as Jet Channel. He had his own video interview in Earth's Catastrophe Cycle playlist, and you will recall, he's the one invited by the world's #1 geophysics journal last year to end the dispute between us and Harvard's Professor Lingham. The professor had said magnetic excursions are not dangerous to the planet. We beg to differ. The American Astronomical Society gave us the stiff arm, but the reviews of geophysics from the AGU stamped down in our favor, bringing in James Channel for their invited review. These are the species enders of this planet. Folks, the first link below this YouTube video today goes to the end of that fight between us and the Harvard professor. The video does quickly get the background and see why and how we won, with a little help from Jet Channel and the world's #1 geophysics journal. Check it out if you haven't seen it. So to review, HARP, joke. Magnetic excursions, not a joke. We greatly appreciate your support. We've got wind map forecasts and shots of our star to close, and of course, we'll do this all again tomorrow, right here. But right now, it's 4:45 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.